Eamon Kelly, the Prince of Irish Storytellers, known as the Seanachie. He set the standard for Irish storytelling, and his unique style is still imitated to this day. Now, I grew up in Ireland before television, so the main medium was radio, and Eamon Kelly was regularly featured on Take the Floor, hosted by Dinjo. Now, he wasn't just a fine storyteller, he also was a very fine actor with the Abbey Theatre, and in fact was nominated for a Tony Award for his portrayal of S.B. O'Donnell in Brian Friel's play Philadelphia, Here I Come, which played on Broadway back in 1966. Now, I've never tried to learn one of Eamon Kelly's pieces, but I did start collecting that unique turn of phrase that he used, that Hiberno-Irish, as we call it, that Irish style of using the English language. That collection was greatly enhanced when I read William Carleton's Traits and Stories of the Irish Peasantry. William Carleton, writing back in the 1860s, wasn't just writing from observation of Irish peasantry, he was of the Irish peasantry. In fact, Yeats said of him, he is the great novelist of Ireland by right of the fact that he had the most Celtic eyes that ever gazed from under the brow of a storyteller. Okay, enough name dropping. Oh, one last name, Malachy Lanigan, written in the style of Eamon Kelly. Isn't it grand to be alive and so many people dead? And some millions more to die if they live for it. And some known well to you and I, and they dying for it. But living for it was one Malachy Lanigan. Now, it is said of Malachy that he'll die any class of death except the horizontal one. And the likelihood is, I'll roast for saying it, but he who never lived one upright hour will surely die an upright death. Oh, the most incompatible, the most unamalgamatable, the most uncommatable qualities that ever refused to unite in the same individual had no scruples at all but to run rampant in Malachy. Now, Malachy and his little fistful of a mother, Julia, a cackling, cankersome, crabbit old crater, lived up on the scraw of a hill up on Turin Mask, a bitter, barren, poor place, God help us, and between heaven and wanting, there doesn't be much in it. You'd have to be sending in to the county town to buy a stick to bait the dog. Now, Julia hadn't a bit on her no more than a harrow, and in fact was so thin-faced that when she tried to sleep at night, she had to open the mouth wide so as to muster enough skin to close her eyes. I'm thin, you're thin. Julia was thinner than the two of us put together. God help us, she had all the characteristics of a poker, without its occasional warmth. If she stood sideways, you'd have to mark her absent. Now, when Malachy was born to Julia, for one way or another born to her he was, Julia, in a fit of generosity, bestowed upon him a name, borrowed from her father's people, and left the rest to God. And to a garçon, Malachy could be seen barefooting abroad in bits and pieces of old clothes on him that seldom met, leaving vast expanses of skin showing, the way he bore no bad resemblance to a moulting hen running before a gale in the yard. Signs on he could live on the latch of a door, but betimes found his way into my mother's house, where she, good woman that she was, would give him a whang of buttered bread and a naggin of banya rower, thick milk, to kitchen it, before sending him on his way. And don't you know, there wasn't a bog or meadow in the parish that didn't spring up under his familiar footfall and throw him forward with the bounce of an old acquaintance. But he was as lazy as butter is grazy, all ran scran and tatheration to him, the old thief of the world, for he'd steal the starch out of your shirt or the winkers off a nightmare. And he growing, the heel of bread or the potato that might be spare, was enough to send him on his way, but it wasn't long before he became aware of, and fierce fond of, the drop. And however he mustered the coppers at all, the red lane of Malachy Lanigan was a busy thoroughfare with the whisky and porter flowing. Now, the softest touch in the parish in the county at that time was Father Michael James, the Lord be good to his departed soul. And our man Malachy had a pit fit for burying, dug for himself, shuffling his feet outside of that good man's kitchen door. When Father Michael James went to his just rewards, Father John Moriarty, a big brash boast of a man with a long step on him and thunder in his red face, settled in the priest's house, and our man Malachy settled in his pit by the door, and he waited. Now, 'twas Delia Delahunty was telling me this, and she for knowing it too. She housekeeping the priest this 40 odd years. Father John Moriarty left our man Malachy shuffling his feet by the kitchen door for 3 whole days. But by the 3rd day, he had a face on him that was as long as a week of wet Sundays in Lent. He gotten even so desperate that he'd taken to doing odd jobs about the place. Even took to fixing a loose slate abroad on the roof. Cute out, mind you, to ensure the fixing was of a temporary nature, lest that device might prove useful again in the future. And he descending the ladder, puffing and panting, and a tongue that dry in his head that he was forswearing all the garsoons and girshocks of the parish had been dancing half sets on his tongue in their stocking feet for a fortnight. Who should be waiting below in the yard but Father John Moriarty? Be the powders of war, thought Malachy, at long last, action. Father John Moriarty cleared his throat and the yard of sparrows, for God bless him, he had a voice on him that would raise dead men, and they deaf. Come into the kitchen, says he, and have yourself a bit to eat. No, thanking your reverence, sir, 'tisn't hungry I am at all. And his jaw was near dragging the ground when the big voice boomed again. Do you smoke? Says Father John, in a voice that could be heard across 3 fields of a calm evening. No, thanking your reverence, sir, not that. And he scarcely had time to throw a shuffle into the pause that followed when Father John Moriarty finally said, Do you drink? Yes, said the reprobate, for he did. Good, said the Reverend Father, come over here so and kneel down and I'll give you the pledge. Well, I'd be on for telling you another one now that me mouth's warm, but the old cat takes to fretting when the moon does be rising and I do be still abroad, so I'll away home and ease her mind, the crater.